Good afternoon or good evening, everybody. Very welcome to this Pisces meditation and meeting webinar facilitated by the Aquarian Wisdom Retreat Center. So as usual, we will start with the meditation and afterwards we'll have a webinar and presentation led by Philip Lindsay. We ask you that kindly you have your microphones and cameras turned off while meditation is occurring, and then you will be able to participate during the webinar. So I'd like to, in name of the association, thank you all for coming here today and for participating in this group service. And I would like to pass now to Philip to lead the meditation. Welcome, Philip. And
thanks very much, Natalia. Welcome, everyone. Good to have you all here. I'll just take over the screen sharing here. And we might get a few latecomers, so I'm just going to talk for a couple of minutes about the keynote for Pisces, which is, I leave the Father's home and turning back I save. It's a very deep esoteric keynote, this one. What is the Father's home? And we can see that as the causal body of the soul, or even at a higher level, the technically speaking, the monad or the spirit. That the excuse me, that the soul wanders out from, if you like, in terms of earth experience, but eventually returns to. And also the redemptive nature of Pisces, to turn back and save. This is to turn one's back on the blissful realm of enlightenment, for instance, to choose to come back to Earth's service and serve humanity, to do some of these Piscean themes of sacrifice and service, which the sign represents, and hence the Christ avatar was known as a savior. And this is the salvage or saving work that Pisces does. This last sign of the zodiac that, in fact, finishes the spiritual year before the new spiritual year begins in Aries. So just a few preliminary comments about that that we'll get into a bit more with the webinar after the meditation. So there we are. This is the 6-stage meditation that we do that's pretty universal around the world, so most of you know it. It's called Letting in the Light.
Philip, you have no sound?
Have I been talking to myself for the last 5 minutes?
Yes, the sound was off. Now it's on.
Sorry about that. I'll start again. While we're waiting for a few latecomers to arrive, I just thought I'd mention the keynote for Pisces. I leave the Father's home and turning back I save. And this has to do with the redemptive nature of Pisces, the salvaging sacrifice and service work of this sign, to, in a sense, sacrifice the joy of bliss of the higher realms to come back to Earth to help humanity redeem themselves. That's why the Christ himself was called the Great Redeemer. So saving, the savior, salvage. These words are all indicative of the nature of Pisces, this last sign of the zodiac in this for the spiritual year, before the new spiritual year begins in Aries, which will begin with the sun will ingress into Aries on the 20th or the 21st, which is also the new moon of Aries. So it'll be a very powerful point there that really kicks off the new year with a bang, so to speak. So anyway, we'll talk more about the nature of Pisces in the webinar, and we'll go to the meditation now. How's my sound? Is okay?
Yes, fine.
Very good. So we take a deep breath and just let go of the busyness of the day thus far. And we move into that silent place within the core of our being, within the heart. And we sound the Om 3 times to bring about personality and group alignment, imagining ourselves to be connected to all other world servers around the world in this full moon period. See the radiant light of the lower self merging with the greater orb of light, the soul. So slowly move together, become one greater radiant light, soul and personality integration. And we see this light and all the other lights of ourselves here, connected to all our group co-workers around the world, some of whom may be in triangle formations with you, other individuals, groups, all around the planet in a great triangular network of lights. So we start the first stage called group fusion. We affirm the fact of group fusion and integration within the heart center of the new group of world servers that mediates between hierarchy and humanity. We sound the formula for group integration. I am one with my group brothers, and all that I have is theirs. May the love which is in my soul pour forth to them. May the strength which is in me lift and aid them. May the thoughts which my soul creates reach and encourage them. alignment. We project a line of lighted energy towards the spiritual hierarchy of the planet, the planetary heart, also known as the great ashram of Sanat Kumara, the Lord of the world. And we direct that light towards the Christ at the center of hierarchy, at the heart of hierarchy. We then extend the line of light towards Shambhala, the center where the will of God is known. Hence we see the three major centers, Shambhala, hierarchy, and humanity, with the new group of world surveys as the bridge between hierarchy and humanity. You see these four centers as radiant points of light. Here is where we work in the meditation. Quiet interlude. We hold the contemplative mind open to the extraplanetary energies streaming into Shambhala and radiated through hierarchy. Using the creative imagination, endeavor to see the three planetary centers, Shambhala, hierarchy, and humanity, gradually coming into alignment and into play. We open ourselves to a sense of great light, love, and power pouring down through all these centers. We receive and we also broadcast and radiate that energy back outwards to humanity. And so we reach the meditation stage and reflect upon the seed thought for Pisces. I leave the Father's home, and turning back, I say, I leave the Father's home, and turning back, I say. Let us reflect upon this for a couple of minutes. Precipitation. Using the creative imagination, visualize the energies of light, love, and the will to good pouring throughout the planet and becoming anchored on Earth in prepared physical plane centers through which the plan can manifest. Light, love, and the will to good. And we use the sixfold progression of divine love as the sequence of energy precipitation. Shambhala, hierarchy, the Christ, the new group of world servers, men and women of goodwill everywhere in the world, and the physical centers of distribution. So we imagine the precipitation of energies through the sixfold progression. From spirit into matter. Seeing the energy of love wisdom, the indigo blue ray, pouring down into humanity, enveloping the earth. Lower interlude. Let us refocus the consciousness as a group within the periphery of the great ashram, and together the sound the affirmation. In the center of all love I stand. From that center I, the soul, will outward move. From that center I, the one who serves, will work. May the love of the divine self be shed abroad in my heart, through my group, and throughout the world. We now visualize the downpouring spiritual inflow released from Shambhala through the hierarchy and streaming into humanity through the prepared channel. We consider how these inpouring energies are establishing a pathway of light for the coming world teacher, Christ. Distribution. As the great invocation is sounded, visualize the outpouring of light and love and power from the spiritual hierarchy through the 5 planetary centers: London, New York, Geneva, Darjeeling, Tokyo, irradiating the consciousness of the whole human race. Great invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay. Well, the picture here is appropriately of the ocean, the waters, the Neptunian waters, Pisces being ruled by the sign of Neptune, by the planet of Neptune, and Jupiter, both of them at the personality level. At the esoteric level, it's Pluto, the destroyer, who breaks the tie that binds the two fishes together in the ocean of matter, so they can achieve unity and synthesis by being rejoined, but without any binding thread. I'm paraphrasing here the Tibetan from esoteric astrology. So, just a moment, I'm just going to take a throat soother here. So these beautiful pictures here I have in my latest newsletter. On the left, of course, the ancient, very, very ancient seahorse, which is like a swimming dragon of sorts. Very beautiful creatures. Very mysterious too in many ways. They probably go right back to the dawn of time as far as the development of the animal kingdom is concerned. And on the right, we have an artist rendition of a devic creature known as an undine. These the class of devas that are associated with water, and there are many, many different kinds of them. course, for all the elements. Irina, just to pause for a moment, Irina asks, what is the source of the great invocation we use in the meditation? It was transmitted to Alice Bailey in her series of books by her master, the Tibetan or Dwashkul, which all of my writings practically are based upon. And it was translated from a very ancient source that was in a different, a very ancient language, and was translated in a very precise way. We're told numerologically, it's very powerful. It has a lot of import, and there's been a couple of books written about it, actually, about the potency of. It's really a mantra in many ways. So that's the short answer there. So when we think of Pisces or any sign of the zodiac for that matter, we always look at the opposite sign. And in this case, we have Pisces on the left, the fish goddesses, and on the right we have Virgo, the opposite sign, the earth goddess, in fact. Both of them feminine signs. Both of them take the second and sixth rays through them, the second ray of love, wisdom, sixth ray of devotion. So, and both of them are feminine signs, of course. Open, receptive, nurturing, caring, sacrificing, so forth. Of course, Virgo is well known as a sign of healing, and hence these pictures of herbs and the caduceus and the horn of plenty and the sheaf of wheat in her hand. So the fluid, sensitive temperament in Pisces, mediumistic and psychically polarized, must be stabilized in Virgo, in which sign mental introspection and critical analysis become possible and serve to arrest the fluidity of Pisces. These two signs balance each other, the polar opposites of Virgo Pisces. So quite often you might see on social media and other places, they talk about, they'll mention this full moon as the full moon of Virgo. And a lot of people make that mistake. Technically, the moon is in Virgo at a full moon of Pisces, opposite the sun in Pisces. But it's a solar festival, which means it relates to the soul. The moon is related to the form nature. So we call it the Pisces Solar Festival. And we can talk about it in terms of Pisces Virgo, but it is not a Virgo full moon as such. It's a bit misleading, that statement. So, and while we're on the subject of polar opposites, we have three crosses in astrology, three four-armed crosses: the mutable cross, which Pisces and Virgo are part of, the fixed cross and the cardinal cross. So the other two signs of the mutable cross are important as well. Gemini, Sagittarius, they're the four mutable signs that one draws upon, particularly when it's on the path of discipleship. One draws on all four arms of any cross that one's on, so to speak, and draws upon the energies of each sign, plus the rulers of those signs. Now, excuse me, clearing my throat. I've got a bit of a frog in my throat, I think, tonight. What you see here is a familiar symbol called the Pisces vesica. And it's created by two circles intersecting each other. And the center part here is the vesica Pisces. And that's a horizontal one, and we have a vertical one here with two circles interlacing. And there are various symbolic meanings that have been associated with the vesica pieces. Obviously, it has to do with Pisces. You have the shape of the fish here, if you like, or even here, in the outer circles. Horizontally, the two overlaid circles placed one above the other symbolize the interface between spiritual and physical, the spiritual and physical worlds. Excuse me for a moment. And of course resembles the fish or the ictus, the symbol for Christ, the symbol of life, the materialization of spirit, Christ's mediation between heaven and earth, these two spheres here. Of course, the Christ was the avatar for the entire Piscean cycle for the last 2,000 years that we're just leaving. Vertically, this one on the right here can be a halo or aureola, represents divine glory. It is also a depiction of the vulva, symbol of feminine fertility. So again, we have this connection to, well, both the feminine signs, but particularly Virgo, because Virgo rules the womb. All right, so now I'm not sure how many of you read the latest newsletter, but I had a piece on Saturn and Pisces, which I'm going to go through again. You can see here on the right in this picture that the tie that binds the two fishes together keeps them swimming around eternally in the ocean of matter. So this full moon, which is about 1 o'clock tomorrow in GMT time, is an open gate and is always powerful, of course, on the monthly cycle. And this one, of course, the solar festival of Pisces. But to have a planet ingress into a new sign at the exact time of the full moon is extraordinarily rare. It's the most auspicious sign. Saturn moving into Pisces just 49 minutes of time after the exact Pisces Virgo full moon carries some weight. And Saturn will remain for about 2.5 years in Pisces, leading up to 2025, when it then ventures into Aries. Coinciding in fact with Neptune going into Aries at the same time, which is another fact that I've written about several times in the last few years. So we are finishing a cycle not just for the year, but we're starting the finish of a cycle for the last 30 years, in a sense. So the chart for the ingress of Saturn into Pisces at the full moon is more or less indicative of the next 2.5 years. And I do make a few comments about that in my newsletter, should you like to go and check that out. So here we have Father Time, Saturn with his scythe. And why does he have a scythe? Well, the scythe relates to the harvesting process, the harvesting of souls when their time is up, so to speak. Saturn, also called the Grim Reaper, through Christian sort of fear indoctrination over the years, comes to tell the person that their time is up, that the incarnation is finished, and the withdrawal of the soul starts to take place. But Saturn is far more besides that. He's related to death. He's the teacher. He's the one of the lords of karma. We're told there are 4 lords of karma. And I've speculated about which ones they might be, but we don't really know. So what is the meaning of Saturn, the lord of karma, moving into Pisces? It can be a difficult position for the karmic planet in a karmic sign, where conflict arises, processing memories of the past. Saturn is the lord of memory. So this is a very interesting factor, because when we face the dweller on the threshold of the shadow, it relates to a whole host of old memories that we have to deal with. So especially regarding the events of the last few years, the mass gaslighting, manipulation, bullying, lies and propaganda that generated so much fear and resentment due to forced vaccinations, mask muzzling, excuse me, financial and travel restrictions and lockdowns. Saturn in its lower expression is the jailer, the lord of lockdown, if you like, the imprisoner, and Pisces is associated with this theme also. 12th sign Pisces gives its meaning to the 12th house area of life experience pertaining to prisons. And we're told by the Tibetan in this quote here, the prison house of matter. Hence the symbol of Pisces, the two fishes linked together by a band. That Pisces is also about liberation from our self-created prisons. There are some quite well-known saints and initiates who have had Pisces potent in their horoscopes. Mir Baba is one that comes to mind. In Pisces, there is the death of all attachments and the liberation of the soul for service upon a universal scale. The death of all attachments. Here is not so much Saturn, because it's more about Pisces, but Pluto, the esoteric ruler of Pisces. Saturn and Pluto, two of the main planets related to death. Death, not necessarily physical death, but the death of the lower self, the death of the ahamkara or false sense of self, the relinquishing and releasing old patterns that we do on a daily basis. As St. Paul once said, I die daily. He was a Pluto-ruled Scorpio, so I guess he knew what he was talking about. So we have the fearsome Tibetan deity here, Yamantaka, who's a bit like the Hindu goddess Kali, in fact, very fierce, and the headdress loaded with skulls, so forth. Death in Pisces, we're told by the Tibetan, through the energy of Pluto is transformation, a transformation so vital and so basic that the Ancient One is no longer seen. He's quoting here from another book when he's saying this. He sinks to the depths of the ocean of life. He descends into hell, but the gates of hell hold him not. He, the new and living one, leaves below that which has held him down throughout the ages and rises from the depths unto the heights, close to the throne of God. So this is quite another esoteric passage that you could spend quite a long time sort of dissecting, but essentially the Ancient One is the dweller on the threshold that we've been schlepping along with us from lifetime to lifetime. And the release of the Ancient One, so it no longer has a hold over the individual. This is kind of at a more advanced stage of evolution. And he sinks to the depths of the ocean, which of course is Pisces. And the depths are the realm of Pluto, the underworld. Pluto's underworld, the gates of hell, and so forth. I'm just looking at the comments here. I'm sorry, I can't see the graphic that someone posted there. Oh, there it is. Okay. I don't know whether anyone else can see that. I can just see it on my screen. I have to just get rid of it now. What have I done? What are you seeing on the screen? Is it my page or is it this graphic? Anyone? Natalia, Ines?
Yeah, someone posted a picture of the alignment of the planets, but if you scroll up,
Right.
you will see the question.
Yeah, I've opened the picture now. I can't get back to my PowerPoint. I think that's what I'm saying. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks. I can't really answer that question right now. Can we just keep the questions succinct and not continuous every few minutes, it is a bit disruptive for me to stop and have to look at those things. Please consider your questions carefully or your comments and frame them in a way that I can understand easily. Thanks. So, Saturn in Pisces can bring about an emotional understanding, compassion, and catharsis. These are all Piscean qualities. But Saturn is the mind. Saturn rules the throat center, the seat of the mental body. So it can give some objectivity, some mental objectivity in what is sometimes a very emotional sign, Pisces. Yet can also be prone to an overactive, fearful imagination, imagine slights, anxieties, paranoia, excessive worry, and regrets over the past. This is Saturn in Pisces. As Pisces is a sign of reflection and completion, reviewing the past few years may bring many people to profound realizations of what actually happened these last 3 years. This huge, this devastating impact of what started to occur in 2020, and is still going, but it's going in slightly different directions now. Hence, a healing cycle may begin where the emotional intensity of those years is recognized and integrated. Invoking the polar opposite of healing Virgo will also help balance the opposites on the astral plane by the development of objective self-critical analysis, as we mentioned before a few slides ago when we're talking about the objectivity of Virgo anchoring the watery, somewhat nebulous nature of Pisces. And here we have a picture of Pluto, Lord of the Underworld. You'll note that his staff, it's not a trident, it's actually more like the staff that Shiva, a first-ray deity, holds in the Indian tradition, the Hindu tradition. So he has a dog, the three-headed dog called Cerberus, that guards the gates of hell. And there's quite a bit of symbolism in that too, if you go into it. So Pluto, Lord of the Underworld, esoteric ruler of Pisces, exoteric ruler of Scorpio, and only discovered in the last century, 1930, about 100 years ago, just less than 100 years ago, when it was coming into human experience more so. In between the two world wars, of course, at the end of the age of Pisces, Pluto was destroying all the crystallizations that had been built up in that long period of time. Basically, World War I and II were Pluto's domain in many ways. So the fish goddesses of Pisces bring a loving understanding, compassion, receptivity, and a note of forgiveness. Saturn is the mind, ruler of the throat center of the mental body, hence brings synthesis of mind emotion. Saturn finishes its 30-year cycle, wrapping up the last few decades when Saturn entered Pisces in early 1994. Of course, as I said before the new cycle begins in Aries 2025. And because of the potency of Saturn entering this sign at the full moon, the Pisces Virgo full moon chart of March the 7th tomorrow can be an indicator of events the next 2.5 years cycle of Saturn. In the full moon horoscope, Saturn only makes one aspect to other planets, a semi-square to Jupiter and Chiron in Aries, both of which dominate the midheaven of the ingress horoscope. I had that horoscope is in the newsletter if you want to look at it. So, of course, the last few days we've just had an amazing conjunction of Jupiter, Venus, and Chiron. The Venus, Jupiter were visible in the sky. Chiron wasn't, of course, but they were all in the same degree of Aries, in about 13 degrees Aries. So really stimulating the news cycle, which is about to come in a week's time, in a few weeks' time, I should say, sorry, about 2 weeks' time. You'll notice that the mermaid here, of course, is the classic Piscean symbol. and she has the mother of pearl shell with a pearl necklace inside it, and she is of the Devic world. She's like a half Devic being, half human being. And then you have the mermaids or the sirens that used to sing their sweet music and lure sailors and ships onto the rocks. Many legends about that. Even Hercules on his, or Ulysses on his trips, his great sailing adventures around the world. In one trip, he got his crew to lash him to the mast so he could listen to the sound and not give in to his temptations. And there's also a story about how the siren song is related to Sirius, in fact, that they're singing a kind of a mantric sound related to the energy of Sirius. So, any questions or comments so far? Well, Pisces is a sign that can be fraught with glamour because of the fact that it's a water sign, which represents the emotional body, and that most of humanity are emotionally polarized because of the fact of Neptune, the god of the waters, in its lower expression, represents illusion, because of its highly refined frequencies that distort through the astral body of the bulk of humanity. But none of us are really immune from that. And Neptune has been very powerful in the last few years because it's been passing through its own sign, which it rules, Pisces, and will leave this sign in 2025, as I said before. So Neptune is a name, in fact, for the Christ. In the West, we're told in esoteric astrology, that's one of Christ's names. So he rules the sixth ray and the solar plexus, but at a higher level, he rules the heart, which is appropriate. And of course, is the major significator of buddhi, or intuition, or direct knowledge. So Neptune is an energy, lower Neptune, lower Pisces. In the last few years, that's been activated very powerfully by those who've sought to cast a veil over humanity, to create confusion and what's the word? Exacerbate fear. So this theme of propaganda and world glamour is a recurring theme in many of my newsletters and bears repeating within the various contexts of zodiac signs and human consciousness evolution. As the water sign, Pisces has great emotional sensitivity and empathy that is connected to its deeply compassionate nature. Neptune is personality ruler of Pisces, as Lord of the Oceans, appropriately rules the solar plexus center, the gateway to the astral body. And we have to consider the fact that the bulk of humanity, we are told, about 75% are still astrally polarized. The other, around about 20%, 25% are more mentally polarized. Even though we are all, mentally developing individuals, there's only a much smaller percentage that are really thinking, that are more polarized in the mental plane. So, as with all the signs, the rays, and the planets, Neptune has a lower and higher expression. At its highest, Neptune is connected to positive spiritual idealism and aspiration, intuition, visionary art, music, and the creative imagination. Many great musicians and artists have Pisces strong in their horoscope, or Neptune strongly placed. Neptune inspires, and so the artist or musician can inspire other people through their own download inspiration. So its lower expression of Neptune is in mass consciousness, addiction, illusion, distortion of ideas, paranoia, unwholesome fantasy, which is a phrase that decays us somewhere, etc. Hence, it's not difficult to see how lower Neptune is invoked through manipulation of the masses by those with more developed mental capacity, but who lack the development of compassion, resulting in exploitation. This is a really interesting point, because one of the things that a lot of people have realized in the last few years is that humanity are like the majority of people of goodwill, and who are like, in a sense, innocent lambs who could not imagine that there are some nasty people on the planet who wish to control or abuse them. And of course, it's happened many times in history. We have a short memory when it comes to history quite often. So I think this has been one of the problems in the last few years, that people have dismissed the alternative narrative of as conspiracy theory. How could people do this? Such a thing? How could there be such a plan by evil people to do this? This is the stuff of science fiction movies and so forth, and yet it's happened. So I'm not being too specific here. I usually avoid going too close to the bone on this thing, but most of you who read my newsletters know what I'm talking about, because I've been banging on about it for about 3 years now. Anyway, I'm just going to the chat for a minute. Where are we? Just a moment. And Irina says she was trying to post the view of conjunction with Jupiter and Venus. Well, it's been doing the rounds of the internet. It's quite easy to find if you go online. Some great photographs, and thanks for the graphic you posted there. And it looks like Saturn is in alignment now. No, well, no, Saturn is in late Aquarius, about to go into Pisces, but it's not in alignment with Jupiter or Venus. Okay, so any other questions or comments from anyone else in the audience tonight? Don't be afraid to speak up. Sometimes your question can answer other people's questions that they haven't asked. Clarifications. Right, so we're ending the age of Pisces, which has been characterized by the religions of devotion and idealism, all the qualities of the sixth ray which Neptune rules. Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, they're all influenced by the sixth ray. And most of them have a strong devotional element in them. Devotion being one way, one approach to the heart, but not the heart per se. So here we have Neptune, of course, with the proper trident, and in the mists and fogs, which is another kind of symbol of Neptune, of not being able to see clearly. The mists, or the mystique, if you like, and of course lots of waterfalls in the ocean there in the background. So as Neptune rules over visual media, then propaganda can be easily fed to the masses through carefully crafted movies, documentaries, global news channels, internet videos, and television. A lot of people have come to the realization in the last couple of decades that when they look back to the 60s, how propaganda has shaped our lives. you can see those ridiculous advertisements of the 1950s. Doctors smoke Camel, so you must buy the cigarette because a doctor recommended it. And there you have his medical authority that it's okay to smoke Camel. I mean, it's insane by today's standards, and so we'll look back in maybe 20 or 30 years time on what's been going on now, and even have the same kind of revelations. But right now, because of the accelerated evolution upon the planet, a lot of people are getting it right now of what's going on and waking up to the fact of the shaping of the narratives through visual media. Indeed, the Neptunian flight of all these factors over the past 10 years could be termed WMDs, weapons of mass distraction. And this has resulted in a dumbing down of the population to the point where the development of independent critical thinking has been blocked or vastly diminished, with education standards falling and zombie-like cell phone addiction. And none of us are immune from that either, because we are connected to everything we do, our business through our phones and so forth. It's a fine line to tread between using it or letting it use you. So all these factors have become particularly noticeable since around 2015, with elections in the UK and USA, and the analytical data groups who influence public perception and voting outcomes. And it continues to this day, unabated and even more sophisticated. Some of you may remember how confusing it was in the US election and the UK elections, which happened around about the same time. There was so much propaganda going backwards and forwards, and the country was completely confused. And it hasn't been helped by the fact that USA's horoscope, the 1776 independence chart, has had progressed sun in Pisces the last 18 or 20 years, and that can have an effect. In my newsletter, I talked about Germany being a Pisces personality, and how the Germans in World War II or before World War II had this mutable receptive quality that allowed them to be taken over by the evil forces of the Nazis and controlled. That was like a mass, what Matthias Desmet, psychologist, calls a mass deception, or excuse me, a mass hypnosis. There's another word he uses, I just can't remember what it is now. Anyway, you get the picture. And in a sense, this is what's been happening increasingly in the last 5 or 6 years. And many people have fallen into it, have fallen into the trap. And I'm talking about people who are quite advanced spiritually even. And this explains, this is a great mystery. People say, how could so many intelligent people, academics or spiritually advanced or whatever, have such varying viewpoints? So it all comes down to one's personal glamours, and what goes hand in hand with that too is the discrimination factor. How discriminating is your mind? It's something that we're discriminating from lifetime to lifetime, or developing from lifetime to lifetime. And in fact, Virgo, the opposite sign of Pisces, is the sign of discrimination. So that's another factor that balances the very undiscriminating Pisces nature. Pisces is the large version of consciousness, takes everything in. Virgo discerns the details of that bigger picture more easily because of its objective, Mercury-ruled quality. So feel free to make some more comments. I don't have any other material here, but I can keep talking for a while if I have to. If we have an interesting conversation or dialogue. So this factor of glamour is a key thing to understand. There's a whole book dedicated to the subject, Glamour, a World Problem. And it's I think one of Alice Bailey's most inspiring books because of the insights it provides into all our blind spots, where we're blinded on different levels, at the etheric physical level, at the emotional body level, at the mental level. And so we have technically illusion, glamour, and Maya that correspond to the mental, emotional, and physical planes. But it's the world of glamour that is is the biggest problem for humanity, because most people are polarized, as I said before, in the astral body. And when people become more mentally polarized, the problem of illusion will broaden more so than what it is now. The balancing of the pairs of opposites upon the mental plane, as opposed to the balancing of the pairs of opposites on the astral plane. Michelle, I think it is, says, to aid humanity during this full moon, should we continue to meditate specifically on these energies for a few days? Also, what can we do for these signs in our birth charts? For example, I have Scorpio, Sun, Pisces, Moon, Leo, Rising. Well, if you know your birth chart, or if you have planets in Pisces, you can relate. Obviously, the interpretations of Pisces, both exoterically and esoterically, to that planet. Of course, if it's the moon, it represents the dweller. So you look at some of the negative aspects of Pisces moon to see where your blind spots are, that I've mentioned here before. The key factor with any full moon period to meditate on is basically linking up with all our group brothers and sisters around the world and bringing through the healing energy for the planet as a whole. We can consider our own charts, of course, but that's kind of besides the point. Is as far as group service is concerned at a full moon festival. So thanks for your question there. Anyone else? Right then, well, I think then we can call it an evening, day, or morning, wherever you are. Thanks everyone for coming and participating in the service meditation. And we'll see you next month. So I'll hand it back over to you, Natalia or Inez.
Thanks, Philip. Thanks, everybody. And see you soon. Thank you.